could be some legal challenges that the defense could raise in that regard to say that some of those things have happened. As far as how persuasive is it to a jury, I think that.
Hi, guys. Welcome to Parawomen Radio, and I'm Amy. Today I wanted to talk about, I saw that Ashley Banfield had done an interview with Kaylee's parents, and Steve Goncalves has said a little bit more, and so he's leaked a little bit more, and he has apologized to the Idaho Moscow police, and I wanted to watch that with you. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get that out. I also want to go over the Idaho floor plan. Let me see that. I say that fast. Idaho 4 floor plan, because it's interesting that we found out that Zaina and Ethan were on the first floor instead of the second floor where we originally thought. So let me pull up Ashley Banfield and we can go from there.
We've been hearing so much information coming out about the only suspect in the Idaho 4 case, Brian Koberger. Classmates and students of his have spoken out about his behavior before and after the killing.
Let me see. Okay. I guess this is what I'm going to share. No, that's not what I want to share. Is it? No, that's my YouTube studio. Ooh. I'm a blonde, by the way. I'm proud of it. Ditzy people need love too. Let me see. Okay. Share your screen, Amy. Share it. Hey, did any of you guys catch our skincare and suspects last night? Angela from Angela's Aging Essentials joined me, and we chatted about the Idaho 4 case and also Retina A for the skin. I actually was inspired to use Retina A yesterday because of what we talked about, although I did have, my skin is very dry today, but that is something that Retina A does. It's just what it does. Okay. Okay, here it is.
Mother and father of Kaylee Goncalves. They've been patiently waiting by. Their attorney, Shannon Gray, is also standing by as well. And thank you, all of you, for doing this and giving us this opportunity to touch base with you. I know this has got to have been one of the most difficult days of your life. Steve, let me begin with you. Your reaction after laying eyes on the person accused of doing.
Hold on a second. Is it being shown? Yeah, it is. Okay. Here we go.
This horrendous.
Oh, I was saying that we did a skincare and suspects last night. It's over in my live. I'll be working on it and creating a video out of it. Thank you to everyone that came and visited us last night.
Crime against your family.
I just looked at a guy that looks like a normal, everyday kid. I mean, I didn't see anything there that caught my eye. I just was overtaken by the fact that I was in a courtroom going over a case that had to do with two people that I cared and loved about. It was a little bit unreal. But
his quote about his daughter meeting Maddie in the 6th grade and that they went to school together and then eventually lived in the same apartment. And in the end, they ended up dying together in the same bed.
I was just overtaken by the moment.
Just with the affidavit that came out, just the thought, reading it, and it just is stuck in my mind. The part about the roommate, it's just stuck in my mind. I do want to say some things about the roommate. I did read or hear that she is suffering from post-traumatic stress, and she was actually suffering from post-traumatic stress prior to this incident, and it said that she had sleeping issues. Well, I have sleeping issues from post-traumatic stress. I sleepwalk because of it. I talk in my sleep because of it. And it sounds like perhaps she thought that she was doing those things when she was witnessing and hearing what was happening outside her bedroom door. And it sounds like to me that she was in a state of shock, but she also probably thought she was sleepwalking. So I'm not angry with her whatsoever. At first I was, but then I stopped and I put my social work and psychology cap back on. And I actually put myself into her position, and I just would never want to be where she is. I mean, who would?
Moment.
Christy, I can imagine that that is an understatement, being overtaken by something. You're in a club no one ever wants to belong to. There are so many others across this country who have been through what you've been through and say
Like
the same
what I
thing.
said, who would want to
It's
be in
unbelievable. They're numb.
the roommate's place?
Does that sum up how you felt? Can you tell me what you thought?
I expected to feel just this immense amount of hate. And I'm sure that will come. I think that I'm a little bit in shock still. But looking at him, I just felt nothing. I mean, I just looked at him like, and I couldn't take my eyes off of him, his every moment. And I just could not believe that he has done what he has done. And I had a sick feeling for sure. It was very emotional. But on the other hand, I just was numb.
I expected him to be a bigger monster and a more intimidating.
I mean, I'm like, this is the guy?
I would imagine she is suffering from post-traumatic stress as well.
Yeah.
This is the guy that murdered her daughter.
Are you going to be okay with continuing these court hearings? Are you going to show up at all of these court hearings? This is a lot. It's a lot to process. Before this, you were just parents of a couple of really great kids and living the American dream. And now there's this new normal in your life.
I think we'll lean on the prosecutor to tell us if the information is going to be to a level. Like I've already told them what I'm comfortable with hearing about the family has. I don't want to hear any of the gory details. So there'll be certain days that we're there and certain days that we check out,
We have Shannon that will keep us in tune with that.
What would you do if a loved one had been murdered? Would you show up every single day and watch and listen to everything? Or would you pick and choose your days? Not really sure what I would do.
As well, and we have other family members that will be going on some of those harder days. They feel that they can be there because we know it's a long road, but and it's a drive for us. But we'll do it every day if we have to. We just don't want to do the bad details.
There's there on the screen. There are pictures of Kaylee as you're talking, and I'm always struck by how much she looks like you. Absolutely stunning.
You.
Just such a beautiful girl. Indeed.
Indeed. She looks
she looks like you, Steve.
Just like her mama. She's got her daddy's lips, but she's got her mama's eyes.
She's got some of you too. I just wanted to get a sense from you about justice. What is it? What does it look like for you? I mean, you're just starting this process.
For me, it's going to look a lot like an end. I mean, justice doesn't have a room where you can read books and you can go to school and you can have, 3 meals and you can have your vegan diet. To me, that's not justice. Justice is when you leave the planet and the whole world is able to rejoice and be glad that you are not there.
Oh, oops.
That's justice, and we
Hold
will
on a
forgive
second.
him.
Sorry, guys.
We will. We're not going to have that.
I indeed was shocked to learn that he was getting vegan meals. But he hasn't been convicted yet. So I guess they have to give him his vegan meals, huh? There you go. Make sure you can see it. All right, you can see it. What do you think about him receiving vegan meals while incarcerated? Do you think he deserves to have vegan meals? Or does he not deserve to have vegan meals? I guess he deserves to have vegan meals because he hasn't been convicted yet.
Wait on us. We will forgive this individual and but he has to pay for what he's done. And it's not just our daughter.
And they're already at the space where they know that they have to give him forgiveness so that they can heal and go on.
All the victims he needs to pay justice to. And, that's all I can say about it.
Yeah.
Chrissy, it's always a shock to face the person who's alleged to have committed these horrendous acts and changed your lives forever. If you could say something to this person, what would you say?
I would just, I wouldn't want to give him too much. But I mean, I would tell him that, he destroyed our lives in an aspect. Does he realize what he has taken from us, from these 4 families? I mean, Ethan was a triplet. Maddie was an only child. Xana had siblings. Kaylee was one of 5. She was the middle child. She had 2 older siblings, 2 younger siblings. I
always feel like when people do their statements, they can be wonderful, but to look at the criminal and to see it just bounce off of him or him or her when it happens, it's just, what would you say to somebody who's a know-it-all? It just is not going to work. It doesn't work. It never works. Know-it-alls are horrible people to do FYIs.
The immense loss. I mean, did he really think? I mean, he did really think about it, which makes it really hard. But why?
And I would add to that if you were looking for cruel girls that were bullies to you through your life when you were struggling, you picked the wrong girls. My girls have been through a lot, and they weren't the ones to pick on somebody that because they were overweight or they were struggling and people weren't. They were actually the ones to stick up for you. So. Yeah, you picked the wrong person if you were looking for vengeance on some people that were mean to you in your life, and you picked the wrong community. And we're gonna have to hold you accountable for that mistake.
You can get a vibe from their photos, and they just seem like such sweethearts, such sweet girls, such sweet, beautiful girls.
Speaking of that accountability, has the prosecution or anybody from the prosecutor's office discussed the option of a death penalty? Because victims' families are consulted typically throughout the process, and this is an option on the table in the state of Idaho.
We've talked with them. We've had multiple meetings. I think they probably want to do it all the families together before they just approach one. That would make the most sense. But we've had meetings, but we have not crossed that actual
question.
Yeah, I mean, they couldn't even disclose just until recently that they were this close. They kind of said that, hey, give us some time. We think we have the right person. We're going to get this. But we couldn't go from that to death penalty or those type of details.
Do you both have a feeling as to how you would respond to that question once the prosecutors put it to you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we know.
We're glad that we live in
And
Idaho.
Definitely.
I'm assuming that
Definitely.
you are in favor of the death penalty
Yeah.
for this
Absolutely.
defendant.
If our daughters could switch places with him, and I'm saying Maddie is my daughter, we'd do it in a heartbeat. If they could sit there and have 3 squares, a place to live, and we could call them, we could write them letters, they could watch TV, they could get educated.
I would love if Maddie and Kaylee were doing life in prison right now.
Yeah.
Isn't that
At least
sad?
we could talk to them.
That's not.
I have to stop it every few minutes for fair use, but isn't that sad? They would love to have their daughters in prison right now.
A punishment equivalent to being killed. That's God's role. And if you want to play God's role, then you're gonna have to go answer to him.
Do you know if the Mogan family feels the same way? I know you all are very close with the Mogans.
We have not talked to them about that. I was going to call her last night, and I did not. So I'm not sure.
Easy to talk about.
I'm not sure, but I have a feeling that that they will, but I can't say that for sure.
They're very forgiving family.
It's incredible to hear the words forgiveness out of your mouth, Steve. It floors me. It's extraordinarily magnanimous. You're a very strong family if you're able to be there today, especially on day one of this process, seeing him for the first time. I would love to ask your attorney, Shannon Gray, if I can. Shannon, was there anything in the affidavit you didn't already know about? Are there things that you know more about than the public knows now?
Well, I think there were a lot of things in the affidavit that we had no idea about. The DNA and the sheet. We had suspected some things. The identification, I think we had suspected. But there were a lot of things that, there was quite a bit of information in that affidavit. I was actually surprised there was so much information in the affidavit. But it looks like it's a solid case. And, I kind of look at the case in 2 different ways. As a former prosecutor, I look at it as a prosecution case, and it looks like a solid case. And then I flip the hat and I say, okay, as a criminal defense attorney, how would I look at it? And I still have a hard time with the evidence that's been mentioned in the affidavit. And that's not the entire case. There'll be additional circumstantial evidence that'll be provided that will make more connections, hopefully, with the defendant in the case. And like they've always said, it's not just a arrest, it's a conviction. So we're hoping that that's the case.
Indeed. I'm hoping it's the case as well.
When we covered the tragedy that befell Gabby Petito, her father, Joe Petito, said that there were some lessons that he learned very early in the process, and that was to pay particular attention to your other kids because they are going through an immeasurable trauma. Have you had a chance to navigate this with your other kids, with Kaylee's siblings, and have you charted a course forward?
Yes.
I just want to stop right here and let everyone know that you've got it tuned into Parawomen Radio, and I'm Amy. Today we're talking about, we're watching the Ashley Banfield interview with Kaylee's mother and father. I believe it's Steve and Christy Goncalves. You're going to hate me for my pronunciation. I cannot do it.
We have our 2 are adults and they are grown, and we have talked to them and they know.
I said Zaina's name wrong last night in Skincare and Suspects. I put the wrong date. Yesterday, I hate when I make those kind of mistakes.
So they could reach out to grief counseling and whatnot. And we are very open and we talk a lot about it.
And I think I said Xana instead of Zaina.
Enough. But our 2 younger children, right now we are kind of letting them do their own grieving for a little while longer before we start some grief counseling with the church. They have some great
So
people for us
important
to
to
reach out
do
to,
grief
and we plan on
counseling.
reaching out to them. I've been talking to the pastor on a daily basis, and he has some really good. They go through grief counseling himself as the pastor, and he has a team, like for teens and whatnot. And he feels that they are like the best.
She has done her research, which is wonderful.
I trust him. He's a great man, and he's got us through a lot here lately. And we feel that we will. We just don't want to throw it on him because right now they're like, no, we don't need that. But I don't see how they cannot not need that. You know, they're young, and they're heartbroken and they're confused.
Yeah, this is a friend and sister.
Yeah.
And
So,
and you know, Maddie as well, right?
Yes.
I would assume that Kaylee's siblings were very close with Maddie as well. This is a tremendous amount of burden to try to process for them.
Yeah.
Maddie was very kind and had been a sister to them for so long that it was just, we took for granted that she was there and that she would always be there. So yeah, it hits everybody a little bit different, and you have certain memories that you tie to certain individuals. So it's my girls miss them both, and my son is torn.
I can't even imagine.
It's something we're gonna have to work together. We're not very good at this kind of stuff, but we're gonna have to figure it out.
Yeah, we're not, and it's not something you want to be good at.
And what a wonderful idea for Ashley Banfield to connect the Gabby the Petitos. Well, it's not even the Petitos and the Petito dad. I can't remember his first name. She has offered to connect the Petitos and the Goncalves.
But
I'd like to,
as a family.
I'd like to introduce you to Joe Petito. I think it might be helpful just in terms of
advice from somebody who's been there for
Yeah,
we're not.
Be pleased to do that. Shannon, we'll speak after the program, and I will connect all of you together. I do want to ask you, Steve, about some of the information in the affidavit. It seemed as though the police had their eyes on this suspect within 2 weeks of the crimes being committed, and yet for 4 more weeks, he was in Moscow, he was in Pullman, he was crossing the country. And I wanted to get your thoughts just on the notion that there were so many other people, classmates, neighbors, both in Washington and in Pennsylvania, who may have been at risk because they were so close to him before he was actually brought in.
What do you think about Brian's cross trip ride from Idaho or Washington to Pennsylvania? And I've heard a lot of rumble about the fact that perhaps the police stopped him because they wanted video footage, surveillance of laying eyes on Brian and actually seeing the marks that he might have on his body.
In cuffs. What were your thoughts about that?
I think we all kind of shared that as a community, that there was a risk of somebody being out there. And I took that very personal because I had so much weight on top of me, and I knew all these other victims that were associated with my family.
When he talks about people being the community, they were at such a risk. And I believe the police said that there was no reason to worry, but there was a murderer only 15 minutes away from the scene who returned to the scene 12 times on the loose. Oh my God.
We're being hurt with just overall media and coverage. But these guys, there's no perfect way to do this. And these officers they just did an amazing job. And I was hard on them, and I'll come out and say that I owe them all the gratitude in the world, and I've always supported the police. But it's the school of thought that I come from. Like, everybody can do their best, and they need to come to the every day trying to be the best person that they can possibly be. So I won't back off of that. But these guys did an amazing job. They need more credit than they had. I mean, people think Idaho is so old. old-fashioned and out back. But these guys, they hit a home run, man. That affidavit is impressive. And I'm glad to be wrong. I wanted to be wrong. And I told them to their face. I looked them in their eyes and said, prove me wrong. And all is forgiven. And here we are, and all is forgiven. And I'll say that on camera, and I'll tell everybody, I was concerned, but I was wrong. They were right. And I'm okay with that. I have my person now. We have our person of interest, our defendant, and we will go after him, and he better be ready.
I can't thank you enough for spending the time with us tonight, Stephen, Christy, and Shannon as well, especially on a day like you've been through today. And I send you love and strength as you embark on this journey. And I look forward to covering this as well, and seeing justice actually coming through for all of you and your families.
Thank you. You've been dedicated to the story. That's why we're here, because
that was a good story, but it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I swear I thought I heard someone say that Steve has given more details, and in particularly, well, no, I think that was old details when he talked about Ethan and the slashing of his legs. But I wanted to see him say that, but I couldn't find it. So let's look at this.
Tonight, we're learning more details.
Hold on one second. Let me share it for you guys.
About the grisly murders in Idaho. Police believe Brian Koberger stabbed the students to death between 4 and 4:25 that morning. But after earlier reports, the victims were likely sleeping. New court records show at least one victim, Xana Coronado, was likely awake.
Do you believe that the male voice that was heard was Brian, or do you think it was Ethan comforting Xana? I just don't know.
Getting a DoorDash delivery at 4 a.m. and minutes later was on TikTok.
I did hear somebody that
from Xana's room
that was on Alex Erickson's stream, and she gave a really good description of what she thought happened, and she mentioned that she felt like maybe Xana was in the kitchen eating her DoorDash because on the counter there is a tipped over flower pot. I think the big news, there was a lot of big news, was that Xana was on the third floor, her bedroom, and not the second.
Opening her own door to see that masked man coming toward her, so close she could see his bushy eyebrows.
I do believe that Brian was so exhausted and so overwhelmed with what he had just did that he didn't see the roommate peeking out. And I've already said what I think the roommate peeking out, what kind of state she was in.
Before he walked past her and out the sliding glass door. Up until the release of this affidavit, police had not revealed one of the two.
If anybody wants to come up on panel with me, you're welcome to.
The intruder.
Releasing that information could potentially do two things: put them in jeopardy, and also maybe complicate your ability to identify him. He might start getting rid of things, evidence that you might at some point be able to seize.
Police say last fall, Koberger, a graduate student in criminology, applied for an internship with local police in nearby Pullman, Washington. Around the same time, investigators say cell phone data shows he made at least a dozen late night or early morning trips near the victim's home. Kaylee Goncalves' father trying to find out.
Why do you think he went back to the home the next day at 9 a.m. Do you think that he went back because he hadn't seen any news on this yet? Do you think he went back to get his sheath? Do you think he went back into the home and left the front door open?
Why the killer went after these students.
There's still more to be gathered. I think it was a restaurant or a coffee shop or something like that that put this predator on their path.
You can see there right behind me, those sliding glass doors. Authorities say that's how they believe the suspect left the home.
Does anyone remember seeing a photo when this first happened of those sliding doors and there were stools stuffed in it? Where, if he went out that door, why were those stools in the doorway? Did she come back out and like who put the stools in the doorway? That's what I'm wondering. Does anyone have that information? If you could put it in the comments below, because I really would love to know the answer to that question.
They also say that they can use cell phone data to place Brian Koberger back here near the home 5 hours after the murders, around 9:20 in the morning. It was also nearly 3 more hours before that initial 911 call was made. Kana Whitworth, ABC News, Moscow, Idaho.
That is the big deal. That's the big thing. Why didn't the roommate, Dylan, call the police? And I believe there are many reasons why she did not call the police. I believe because I've heard she has post-traumatic stress and some other things that had happened to her even prior to this. And so she does not sleep well. I relate to that. I have post-traumatic stress and anxiety, and I walk and sleep talk. And a lot of times I don't realize I'm up, but then I wake up, and then I don't know what is reality. And so you just go back to sleep. Seeing that, which in her with her sleep issues, do you think she thought this was reality? Or do you think she thought she was dreaming? I'm not sure, to be honest with you. There are just so many questions now. Some of our questions have been answered, but now we have brand new questions, right? Let's see if we can find, I know Banfield has done a lot of reporting on this. Let's see what else she's saying. Let's see. Okay. Could town grown conflict be a possible motive? Could town gown? What does that mean? Town gown conflict be a possible motive? I don't know what that
In
means.
Moscow, the University of Idaho student body makes up almost half of the town's population of just under 26,000. And Moscow is no different from most college towns. There's a dynamic between the students who come to study and the town residents who live there permanently, and they don't always get along.
Listen.
It is called town versus gown, and it was a topic in last year's mayoral race.
When I went to college at Olivet in the 90s, the town people were known as townies. And the townies, when they would take the classes, were always the outspoken one. But I look back at that and I recognize that when you go to school later in life, you do tend to be a little more outspoken and don't care.
The current mayor noted the school's immense contribution to Moscow's economy and called the university students, quote, importers of cash, who, quote, bring money from mom and dad. But another complained that the school's, quote, learning climate had given way to a, quote, social climate, with students thinking they should, quote, have something just because they want it, end quote. The question tonight, though, is after 24 days without so much as a solid lead, could local resentment, justified or not?
Okay, this is old. But town gown. Let's see, what else is Banfield up to? Oh, his life has been threatened in jail?
That picture with him in the suicide smock, you can only see the top of it. Some people think it's like a Kevlar vest. It's not. It won't resist stabbing or shooting. Nothing like that of the sort. It's more of like a heavy, heavy quilted fabric that can't be rolled into a...
It's a psychiatric so that they can't harm themselves. It's not a vest.
Kind of a sheet roll where you could hang yourself. It's called a suicide smock for a reason. That goes all the way down to just below sort of the pelvis, between the knees and the pelvis, almost like you're wearing a mini dress. And that's all you get. If you're on suicide watch, as he was for the 5 days, you get to wear that. And you don't get a t-shirt, you don't get underwear, you don't get anything else that can be fashioned into any kind of device where you can hang yourself. And that's how he spent his 5 days. But he did get a shower every day, I'm told, by his source. And the shower is about 20 yards down a hallway. So he would be marched in his leg shackles. He was not allowed to take the leg shackles off while he was marched down that hallway to the showers every day. They did release the handcuffs so that he could wash himself, but that's about the only time they allowed him that, that latitude. And then he'd be marched back into his cell, and he was able to get a fresh set of the suicide smocks.
So the only time he's out of his cell is for a shower?
If he wanted one. Now, here's what's super fascinating. In the intake part of that jail, there are 5 cells. 3 of them have doors and 2 of them have bars. He was in one of the ones with the doors, and the doors, the one he was in, is all glass.
And it's probably really warm in there if it's all glass.
But a middle portion that's all frosted, and that's the only privacy you get, because when you sit on the stainless steel toilet, that is the only bathroom you're going to use while you're in there. It has a faucet above it. That's the only privacy, is that little bit of frosted glass across the middle of the glass door that was the front of his cell. But basically, there's a lieutenant or guards who can watch him at all times, and do watch him at all times. He gets a 15-minute checkup just to make sure everything's going on okay. But if he's lying down on the floor, they can see him below the frosted glass. And if he was standing up, they could see him above the frosted glass. He did request the vegan meals. So he was given meals that would satisfy that kind of diet. And I'm told it's peanut butter.
I believe that he deserves the vegan meal only because he hasn't been convicted yet.
And jelly, applesauce, vegetables, beans, rice, cereal, maybe some potatoes. That's about it. I am also told that the impression from some of the folks in the jail was that he looked, and I'll use the word creepy. Right from the start, they said he looked extremely creepy. Here is something that is fascinating. He did talk. He actually said a couple of things that are pretty astounding, and I'm assuming that his defense attorneys will probably want to know this, as well as the prosecutors. When he was asked, why did you do it? His answer was, I didn't do anything. When the follow-up question was, why did you go to Idaho? His answer was, the shopping is better in Idaho. Let me repeat that.
No, a criminal profiler that I saw today said that a innocent person would not say that.
When Brian Kober was asked, why did you go to Idaho? He answered, the shopping is better in Idaho. I'm assuming that's a joke, but we are dealing with a quadruple murder here and 4 first-degree murder charges that he's facing. I don't find that very funny. Let me tell you a couple of other things about the way he spent his time there. He was not allowed. He's an alleged murderer at this point. Let's be very clear about this. He's going to face his process in Idaho, but he was not allowed any reading materials. He was allowed no pens.
Has anyone heard that when they think that this case is going to go to trial? I haven't heard anything about that yet.
No paper. At no point was my source aware of any crying or any praying or any sadness, which is odd. He seemed as though he slept most of the time.
Ooh.
He wasn't loud.
Banfield has a source inside. I wonder if it's one of the prison guards.
And he was not mean. That is also in direct, opposition to a report that came out in a newspaper saying that he was screaming profanity and rap lyrics and exposing himself. That was another
That
inmate,
was a
actually,
ridiculous
in the same
report
intake area.
that I
happened
covered.
with someone completely different. It was not this inmate. This inmate was a model inmate who caused no problems. And even though he was cold because he was only wearing that suicide smock you're seeing, and had no sheets, no blankets, only the mattress, and that's a cold area. That intake area is quite cold. There's a lot of electronics equipment in there, so they have to keep it fairly cool. He didn't have a blanket, a suicide blanket, the first night or two, but he did have one later on. Here's one other thing that happened. Another inmate came through that inmate intake area and yelled at him, gave him the finger and yelled at him, "F you, I'm going to kill you." That's what another inmate yelled at him, "F you, I'm going to kill you." And of course, Brian Koberger was behind a locked glass cell door and didn't have any response that we know of at that point. There's some of the reporting I can give you from the jail cell where he spent 4-5 days up until 6 o'clock this morning. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News
See
Nation.
what else Ashley is doing. This is always a good criminal profiler.
He said in the jail, I got the exclusive reporting from a witness in the Pennsylvania jail that he answered 2 questions of jailers. One said, why'd you do it? And he said, I didn't do it.
Oh, this is
but
the
the
one
other one
where
said,
she
why'd
says
you go to Idaho? And he said, the shopping's better in Idaho.
a guilty man
First
wouldn't
of all,
say
I can't
that.
believe anybody would joke about something so horrendous. Second of all, if
I'm
you're
sorry, an
innocent, you're
innocent
brought
man
in. Why would you say something
wouldn't
like
say
this? I
that.
wanted to get your read on that comment that was made in the Pennsylvania jail.
Yeah, the
Taking my
snarky
vitamins.
sarcasm there is not the mark of an innocent person. It's just not. It is somebody who's narcissistic, smug, and thinks he's going to get away with it. But you just mentioned the internship that he applied for in Pullman, Washington, with the local police, where he wanted to help them with their digital forensic technology as if he was an expert. And that is ironic. Because of course it's the digital forensics, the cell phone, the car video, the videos of his car.
That is ironic that that's
but
what's
the biggest
catching
thing,
me.
if you want to just chalk up, if he
And
is indeed
DNA.
guilty, how idiotic this is that he is in a death penalty state that doesn't have the insanity defense. It's the only state in the union that doesn't have the insanity defense. So maybe the shopping's better. Was he talking about shopping for victims? It's not just creepy, it's insulting.
Yeah, well, he went to Albertsons. He went to Albertsons at around noon after the murders, and if he's the killer, that's what he was doing after butchering 4 people, shopping at Albertsons that afternoon. Okay, the other thing I'm astounded at, and I don't get this at all. 4 a.m. The noises begin, and they wake up Dylan, the surviving roommate, and she thinks she can hear
Poor
Kaylee
Dylan.
upstairs. She thinks she can hear Xana. Xana just got a DoorDash delivery at 4 a.m. And the killings happened in this 15-minute to 16-minute period. I can't understand how you could see lights on a DoorDash delivery arriving at a home and be killing within 15 minutes. Does this make any sense?
You're dramatic. Come here.
Well, just keep in mind that nothing about this makes sense. But what is startling is the confidence with which the killer would have gone in the door within 12 minutes after the DoorDash delivery. We assumed, of course, they were all sleeping in their beds, but now that we know the timeline, I mean, you get a DoorDash delivery, you're eating it in the next 12 minutes. This person came in. We know that we believe Xana was on TikTok at the time based on her digital footprint on her phone. It represents a tremendous level of confidence, hubris, if you will.
What do you think? Do you think Xana was on TikTok eating her DoorDash in move May the kitchen, or do you think she was in her room? You're gonna have to lay down. Go lay down. Sorry, my little Chihuahua is trying to position herself for the night. Here we go.
I'm going to go in there. I know there are people in there. There was just a delivery in there, and begin the stabbing spree. The page 4 of that affidavit just made my blood curdle, Ashley, to think that there was, crying, that there was a thud, that there was whimpering, and we're certainly not putting any blame on the surviving roommate. I think what she witnessed was absolutely traumatic. But for him to then walk past a living witness and leave her alive makes no sense whatsoever unless somebody
Casey,
is in a...
Can you give me 10 seconds here? Literally 10 seconds. Do you think this is the first time killing?
Yes, I do, because of all the mistakes made. Because if he had done it before, he would not have been this sloppy.
Do you think it was his first time,
in my estimation, the first time
killing, or was it his first time killing 4 people?
If we hadn't caught him, I doubt it would have been the last.
Casey, Jordan, I knew you were the person to ask. Thank you so much for this. We'll have you back for sure.
Good to be here, Ashley.
Thank you for watching.
Okay, let's see what else Ashley has going on. Chilling new details. I gotta start looking at when the date is. Okay. Has anyone heard the released audio of the supposed scream, whimpering, and crying? Or let's see. For audio. Okay. There's a scream by the neighbor that we all knew about. The Idaho neighbor tells reporters he may have heard a scream. Let's see. I think it was Bullhorn Betty that released it, wasn't it? Let's see. She's going to be known for the screams, I guess. Breaking. Idaho 4 screams heard that night. Oh, it's Bullhorn Betty. Anyone else? How the perp got in. I didn't realize she was on the scene. Let's see. Idaho 4 door cans. That's back to the neighbor. Idaho neighbor tells. Huh. I mean, I guess we can play it from her. I don't know how she is on content sharing. Does anyone know where I can find it? I'm looking for the doorbell scream. Let's see. What is that? What are those door cams? Is it just a door? What are they called? Called something. Let's see. All right.
Was a scream caught on police body cam video the night the 4 University of Idaho students were murdered?
This is 3 weeks ago.
Hear anything? Is it a scream?
Is
it a screech?
I believe this thing that happened in the field that night happened around 3. So So I guess the only way we can hear it is bullhorn. Betty happened to say scream. Does she play it?
Actually see these things or just hear them. It does imply buildings behind or next to their house. It means that there's more Sigma Chi fraternity brothers than any other fraternity house on this road. That's how close they are, right there. From that sign right there. Right? And you're right there.
Well, it's pretty close. I'm sure there were a lot of parties.
Pretty interesting. That close.
Back and forth.
And what I did note,
the house I lived in was actually a Greek house, and we lived next door to the fraternity. Although where I went, I was a member of Alpha Lambda Epsilon, and that was the first co-ed Greek society in the nation. Yes, the first. Alpha E. Okay. Well, she plays it here, I think. She talks through it.
And we're going down I-4. And back in those days, it was only 50. Why did she not try to get help if there were?
And now we know he returned to the scene of the crime first thing in the morning. I believe he went in that house. He may have went in that cursory view.
Is the scream? Well, I guess we don't. Oh.
And you can hear a bunch of, you can't make out the garble. There's a break in audio. And you can hear a male voice say Z or Xana. You can't, I can't tell which, but you can hear somebody hollering. And you can hear, hold on. Female, help him, unintelligible.
Wait a minute.
So it sounds like somebody is in there saying, help him. A man yelling inside, and I could have sworn it says, get out, or something to that effect, but I can't make it out.
I'm going to stop sharing that page. I'm just not hearing what, I just don't want to listen to it, I guess. But let's share, I'll share a different, let's talk about, let's do this. Wait. Am I sharing the right page? Oh. Let me. What's this? Which page am I sharing? Okay. It's this page. I think I actually saw someone cleaned up the audio from Bullhorn Betty. I swear I saw it. I think his name was Captain Howdy. Let me see. Okay. There. Ring, that's what it is. Ring doorbell camera. This is Captain Howdy's page. Do you hear anything? What do you hear? I do think I hear somebody screaming, Zaina, get out. I hear Zaina, get out. What do you hear right there? Sounds like someone said Zane or Zaina. Well, Zane. I'm sure people called Zana or Zaina Zane. I'm Amy, and people call me Aim. Get out. Get out, and I don't know what else they said. This is from Captain Howdy's page. Maybelline, stop that. God, I just sounded like my mom right there. Zane. Zaina. Get out. Stop. That's what I hear. It's either get out or stop. Oh, God. All right. All right. We're not going to listen to that again. Actually, I think I'm going to end this live. I may come back a little later and look at the floor plan with everybody. So thanks for stopping by. This is the promo I did last night for my skincare and suspects. I invite you to go over to my live and watch it. We talked about the Idaho 4 case and Retina A for skin, for anti-aging. The idea is that Murder Makeup Mystery Monday, and we do skincare and suspects. And our next case will be the Memphis 3 and Blue Tansy oil as the skincare topic. So, and tomorrow we are actually doing a Psychic Sunday, 12 p.m. noon, Twin Flame Energy, and the Watts case. Yeah, we're going to talk about Chris Watts, who was his twin flame, Shanann, or Nikki. And we have Psychic Diane Garrison. Rose from Rosie will be joining us, and it's going to be a good time. So I hope you join us. Thank you for doing this live stream, this deep dive of Ashley Banfield, what she's been saying recently. I should come back and do what the First Lady of True Crime, Nancy Grace, what is she saying? This is Parawoman Radio. If you like this live stream, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And if you subscribe, you got to ring the bell. It's just, a whole series of wonderful events. And I thank you. And goodbye, everyone.
I suppose the defense could be challenging the government's use of these technologies, of using phones and surveillance cameras and pings and whatever to essentially, at its worst case, create a surveillance state. And arguably, you could say the Fourth Amendment protects against that because we have a right against unreasonable searches and seizures. Now, the Supreme Court hasn't interpreted it that way. So there could be some legal challenges that the defense could raise in that regard to say that some of those things have happened. As far as how persuasive is it to a jury, I think that